Isn't it great when something that's in the literary canon is actually, it's important, it's groundbreaking. It's also good. Isn't that fun when that happens?
You're listening to Books We've Loved from NPR.
The book show where we reread old favorites and tell you why they still matter today.
I'm Andrew Limbong.
And I'm B.A. Parker. Hi, Andrew.
How you doing?
I'm super stoked about today.
Yeah? Why? What's that?
Well, we're reading a book that I never have gotten to read before. And it's something I've been really, hyping myself. I'm really excited to read because I, want to get in the know.
When you told me that you hadn't read this before, I was like, wow, that's a twist. I didn't see that one coming.
It has eluded me. And this was the perfect time to finally read it. But first, we would like to introduce our guest, Glen Weldon, host of NPR's Pop Culture Happy Hour. Hey, Glen.
Hey, guys.
Hey, Glen.
Great to be here.
All right. So the book that we've been reading is James Baldwin's Giovanni's Room.
Uh-huh.
Now, before we get into the synopsis, I want to give a quick content warning that this book and our conversation will discuss sex. All right?
All right.
Cool. Now, it is the second novel by James Baldwin, released in 1956. It's the story of a young American man living in Paris who reminisces about his relationship with an Italian bartender named Giovanni, while at the same time, he is engaged to another fellow American woman.
Uh-oh.
Mm-hmm. There's the twist.
So, okay, Parker, since you had never read this before, and this isn't like a revisiting from you, why'd you pick it?
I picked it because it's such a part of the literary canon, and it's like the quintessential James Baldwin book, but I had somehow never read it. Like in school, I'd read Notes of a Native Son. I'd read If Beale Street Could Talk. I even read Another Country. It wasn't intentionally that I skipped over it, but now that I'm read it, I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm hooked.
Yeah, are you a Baldwin head, or were those just like assigned to you in school? And just
I am a James Baldwin appreciant? That's not a word.
I got it. That works, yeah.
I know his cultural importance as a Black writer of the 20th century. That if you hadn't read at least one, you get kicked out of Black America.
But Parker, isn't it great when something that's in the literary canon is actually, it's important, it's groundbreaking. It's also good. Isn't that fun when that happens?
My goodness, when you read a part of the canon, you're like, this?
Yeah.
But no, reading Giovanni's Room, I was like, oh, there's a way that he described a car crash that I was like, he's got the juice.
This book is good, and it's also chewy and substantive and difficult and kind of hard to distill into something easy and pat, which is one of the reasons I love it.
Yeah, what did you think, Andrew?
All right, so I first read it not super duper long ago. I wasn't
Really?
like a young man reading. I was like a grown adult.
You weren't 21 in a bar,
I kind of
informatively
wish
reading at
So it's one of
11:30
those
at
things.
night?
If I was, it would have ruined my life in that I think I would have become a different kind of guy, because I've been off cigs for a couple years now. This book kind of made me miss, you know what I mean? I felt, this is not a pro-smoking podcast, but I did for a while. When I was reading it, was like, oh, it'd be really nice to be smoking a cig right now.
Cigs
I
and
mean, that's
cognac.
high
So
praise.
much cognac in this book.
I know.
It's high praise. I gotta say.
Yeah. Well, it also doesn't help that every picture of James Baldwin where he looks impossibly cool.
Oh, there's
he's
a cigarette right there.
He's got a cig right there. It's like, hell yeah, brother. Don't smoke, but
Exactly.
Anyway, I think the long story short of it, I think my wife was nannying for a family who happened to have Go Tell It on the Mountain. And she was bored during that time and started reading it and loved it and brought it home. And I read it. And then we just started going through the Baldwin books.
That's so romantic, Andrew.
I guess this book isn't.
No, it ain't.
Isn't.
This book is not.
That's why I like it. Yep.
Yeah, what about you, Glenn? When did you first read it? Were you a young man?
Well, I was 25. I was still coming out. I came out pretty late. I was struggling. There was a gay bookstore in Philadelphia called Giovanni's Room. And
Yes.
I must have walked around that block 20 times before I worked up the courage to go into the store. As soon as I went in, I didn't look around. I just bought a copy of Giovanni's Room in Giovanni's Room, which, is
Meta.
kind of like wearing the band's T-shirt to the band's gig. You know what I mean?
We don't judge as long as you appreciate.
Yeah.
What's wrong
I
with
get
that?
That's cool now. We're okay to do that. I got the note from the high out.
Good, because that's a thing I also have done. But I was in my 20s. I was coming out, and all I wanted was to know that everything was going to be good, because it didn't feel like everything was going to be good. I wanted to read at that time about really successful well-adjusted, hot-looking gay men having great sex and stable relationships and universal acceptance.
Yeah, have you ever read a book with a stable gay protagonist who's doing all right?
That's right? I mean, like, you don't look to literature to have this, like, flattering mirror, this completely frictionless assurance that you're going to get all the acceptance and sex that you want. What I got instead was this book, which is filled with terrible people, queer characters who are really vain and superficial, and they hate women, and they're racist, and they're classist. They're also self-loathing, which is key, which is what this book's really about. I recognize myself in these horrible people because the real villain in this book is self-loathing, what today we would call internalized homophobia. But you watch this self-loathing poison David's, the main character's soul, poisoning everything in his life. But, I mean, I'm not going to lie. It had a power. I kind of felt that at that time.
After the break, we will dig into the world of Giovanni's Room. Stay with us.
This message comes from NPR sponsor CNN. Stream Anthony Bourdain, Parts Unknown, Prime Cuts now, exclusively on the CNN app. These rarely seen, never-before-streamed episodes dig deep into the Parts Unknown archives with personal insights from Anthony Bourdain and rare behind-the-scenes interviews about each season. Anthony Bourdain, Parts Unknown, Prime Cuts, now streaming exclusively on the CNN app. Subscribe now at cnn.com/all-access. Available in the U.S. only.
This message comes from Schwab. Everyone has moments when they could have done better. Same goes for where you invest. Level up and invest smarter with Schwab. Get market insights, education, and human help when you need it.
This message comes from Progressive Insurance and the Name Your Price tool. It helps you find car insurance options in your budget. Try it today at Progressive.com. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates. Price and coverage match limited by state law. Not available in all states.
And we're back. Now, before the break, we talked about our personal connections to Giovanni's Room, but I'd like to zoom out and talk a bit about James Baldwin. So, James Baldwin, he was born in Harlem, grew up in poverty, and came of age like during the Harlem Renaissance. And in the 1940s, Baldwin moved to Paris to escape the racism and homophobia of the United States, because they're not racist and homophobic in France. So Giovanni's Room was written during his time in Paris and was released in 1956. And Giovanni's Room was controversial for its focus on homosexuality and for having no Black characters. All right, so like a recap of the book, you've got this protagonist, David, who is reminiscing about this intimate relationship he was having with an Italian bartender in Paris named Giovanni, while also beholden to a potential fiancé named Hella, who is traipsing around Spain through a lot of the book, while David is squarely in Paris with this collection of queer characters, including Jacques, who is like an older gay man who David can kind of see what his future could look like, but also shares like a bit of loathing towards Jacques because of Jacques' clear homosexuality. But there was a recording that I found, an interview that Baldwin had later in his life, where he talks briefly about Giovanni's Room, and it speaks to what Glen was saying about how the interviewer was like, well, this was a book about homosexuality. And Baldwin was like, no, this isn't a book about homosexuality. This is about a person who doesn't know how to love and can't love himself. And I really think like Glen really hit the nail on the head there.
But when you wrote Giovanni's Room a long time ago, that was quite a brave book to bring out, wasn't it? It was about love, but it was about a homosexual love, but it was about love. But you deliberately put in homosexual love, presumably.
Well, the boy is in the middle. It's not so much about homosexuality at all. It's about what happens to you if you can't love anybody. It doesn't make any difference whether you can't love a woman, can't love a man, you can't love anybody. You're dangerous. Because you have no way of learning humility. No way of learning that other people suffer. And no way of learning how to use your suffering and theirs to get from one place to another. In short, you fail even the responsibility, which is to love each other.
You know what's incredible about that is that I'm flipping my way through the new Nicholas Boggs Baldwin biography, and I was like paying special attention to the part when he's like doing Giovanni's Room, and it is a lot inspired by his relationship with this guy named Lucian, right, a younger white guy from Switzerland who's a lot more comfortable in his sexuality than Baldwin is, and he's a lot freer. Baldwin's a messy dude.
Yeah.
For sure.
Throughout the whole thing, he's quick to fall in love with other guys, and to hear him say that, reflecting on his younger self, but he's also writing this book about this guy who has trouble loving himself and thus hurting other people in the process. It's this weird sort of both acute self-awareness and yet an odd distance to like stop from hurting people in the moment. You know what I mean?
That's exactly it. That lack of empathy. That's what Baldwin was talking about. I will also note that final scene between Hella and David is like the text, the seminal text for the gay guy coming out to the woman he's been dating scene that we have since seen in movies and television and plays hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of times. We're still reading variations of it today, and because that's how it goes. I've had that conversation, and it goes exactly that way. And it's the scene where Hella, who throughout the novel has been kind of, we agree, one-dimensional. And I mean, she's demonstrated some kind of proto-feminist notions about how unfair life is to women, yet she still wants to get married and have babies like now. She gets to apply some of that insight to David and call him out, which is great.
It's so satisfying. It was like the final scene with David and Hella, where Hella finally calls out David's behavior. And it's kind of like a culmination of all the frustration she's felt in the relationship this whole time, where David is like, you don't understand, I've been lying to myself. And she's like, no, you've been lying to me. Like, I am the other person in this relationship. And it kind of really shows the consequences of his actions throughout, is like, she is impacted. And I think he thought it was a victimless crime when it truly wasn't. It was like the 1-2 punch of like the Giovanni scene and the Hella scene felt, as someone who was frustrated with all of David's behavior, was kind of this culmination. But it also felt like, not browbeating, but just like really just hitting the hammer on the head of like, what is David's problem throughout this entire book?
His interactions with Hella are some of the most frustrating in the book, because Hella is saying these kind of proto-feminist things, and David is doing what a dude would do today, which is like, so what, you're talking about me? I'm a sweaty stranger? I think I'm not. Not all men, he says. He says literally over and over again, not all men. It's interesting to me.
Yeah. And Glenn, you'd mentioned before there's that like final like conflict between the two of them that sort of like reverberates throughout culture, right? And plenty of scenes. I was thinking a lot about this movie Beach Rats, which came out a couple years ago, directed by Eliza Hittman, where it's like, I was thinking about it a lot at first because the opening chapter talks about being like gay in Brooklyn. There's all these interactions with like older men, right, introducing you to a quote unquote, I'm putting air quotes here, like seedy world of, you know, of gay sex and stuff like that. And then there's the hiding behind or lying to a female partner. Is like every iteration of that in culture indebted to Giovanni's Room, do we think?
I think what Giovanni's Room represents, one of the reasons it's in the queer canon certainly, is because it's one of the first examples we got of queer folks telling our own stories, right? Because that's not the way it happens historically. Historically, any marginalized group, people of color, women, queer folks, most of history, we're not the ones writing the stories. We're not the ones writing the history. So when we appear in the narrative at all, which isn't often, we're the other. Like, we're the enemies, first off. We start off as the enemies, like we're the force that the straight white guy protagonist has to combat. We're cowboys and Indians. Then, a little later, we become the victims, right? We're the story triggers that spurs the straight white guy into action. We're the damsel in distress. We're Tom Robinson in Mockingbird, right? Who's wrongfully accused of a crime and needs white guy Atticus Finch to come in and save the day. We're a gay bash teenager that a white, straight, manly man has to stick up for. A little later, we become the sidekicks. We're in the mix, but we're only there to kind of shine a light on the straight white guy or the straight white girl, right? We're the queenie best friend in the rom-com who says, girl, go to him. Like, that's all we do. Finally, when we wrest the narrative away, we get to tell our own stories. And you can feel that in Giovanni's Room because these men are taking advantage of each other. There's a mutual understanding here that trading sex for something it's something that is simply observed and acknowledged, and Baldwin approaches it matter-of-factly and says this is the world we live in. It's not moralized about until the ending. It's not judged from the outside until the ending. And that's what happens when the calls are coming from inside the house.
My favorite part is when they're young, both Giovanni and David are hanging out with the older guys, and David like goes to pay, and Giovanni stops and be like, bro, that's not what we're doing here. Come on.
Yep.
Come on.
Yep.
Come on, we know the score, dude. We know what's happening.
Yeah.
Giovanni knows the rules of the game.
Exactly. You said it exactly. That's the rules of the game. And we all understand the rules of the game, and he understands the rules of the game. And because he depicts it so clearly, it's one of the reasons this was controversial, because he was being honest, right? And this is how it could be used by straight 1956 audiences to kind of say, oh my God, look at these tawdry people. And I read it today and I'm like, yeah, oh no, I get it. This is not conforming to heteronormative ideals. This is kind of us making our way through the world. And the ending, which, can we talk about the fact that David goes away from Giovanni and then the entire last, third of the novel plays out purely in David's imagination.
Yeah.
But in a way, like we just talked about Brokeback Mountain on Pop Culture Happy Hour, and that also has exactly the same vibe here, where Ernest hears that Jack dies, and he goes into this whole imagination of him being gay bashed instead of it being an accident, as everybody around him is telling him.
Oh, yeah. Jack was pumping up a flat on the truck out on a back road when the tire blew up. The rim of the tire slammed into his face, broke his nose and jaw, and knocked him unconscious on his back. By the time somebody come along, he drowned in his own blood. He was only 39 years old.
And again, it's that same thing. I know Jack, so I know this is what happened. And we're not supposed to be left with, is that the way it happened? We're supposed to be left with a conviction of, yes, this is exactly what happened. The same way we're supposed to be left with that same conviction here.
That's so interesting because I recently went with coworkers to like the 20th anniversary of Brokeback Mountain to go see it, because I had to be like, you don't understand. I learned how to drive a car as a teenager so that I could drive to the theater so that I could see Brokeback Mountain. And I said, like, this is how important it was. And then they were like, this is traumatic.
Yeah. This is queer trauma.
This is queer trauma. But I was like, you don't understand. In 2005, this was considered progress.
Yeah. That's the thing that I keep thinking about. I do sense, Parker, the same thing you are, that the younger queer folk are looking for positive representation. They don't want to read about queer trauma. And in my experience, and I don't want to overstate this, but I will say in my experience, they react to characters making bad decisions, unflattering decisions, selfish decisions, malicious decisions, like they do in this book. Mm-hmm. Characters making choices in fiction as if it was a person in real life making those choices. They don't want to have anything to do with them, right? People make bad decisions.
Haunted by respectability.
Exactly.
There's a weird difference. It's like, is it trauma or is it just drama?
That's a great question. You nailed it, Andrew.
You know, we've been talking a lot about different like movies and stuff like that. The part I'm up to in the Baldwin biography is like him being frustrated why this book, Giovanni's Room, can never get adapted, right? There are cracks at it to be on the stage. It reads like a stage play.
It does.
I kind of was thinking about like a movie like Marriage Story, or what's that like one like black and white Netflix movie that was just like the couple in the room
Malcolm
arguing.
and Marie?
Yeah.
Don't even bring that into this conversation.
I don't know, but I'm just saying it felt like something that could be shot in that style, right? Where it's like a sort of a closed set thing. But it just never happened until
this year in 2025 there was a production of Giovanni's Room. But how can you adapt it? Like how to make it if you have an imaginary third act, what can you do?
Yeah, that's the thing. It's a memory play almost. It has to be a memory play, I guess. And to your point, Andrew, like that last scene between Giovanni and David, there is nothing happening. It's just pure dialogue. It goes on and on and on, and there's nothing. It's just a screenplay.
It's all there, and it's so efficient. It's so clean.
It's so
cleanly written. Yeah, Parker, like something you said before. Like, when did you realize all these people were white, or did it something from jump?
Oh, yeah, when he said blonde, I was like, great, okay, I get the vibes. And then he started describing Giovanni. I was like, okay. And yeah, my entire adult life, I just thought this about black people because I knew a black kid named Giovanni.
There you go.
But I think But I also think it's interesting because particularly nowadays, there is this desire for an author to only write about lived experience.
Yeah.
And if a Black author today is to write about white people, it's inherently like a political decision. Like that is something you are deciding to do. What does that mean? What does that represent? Some people can resent you for it. I'm sure, possibly there were Black artists who read this in the 50s and were like, what are you doing? Talk about the cause. Like everything else. So I think writing Giovanni's Room is a political act, and it's something really, really interesting that even today would require some like heavy discussions.
Well, so his publishers wanted him to do essentially like a sequel to Go Tell It on the Mountain, like a follow-up. And he didn't want to be like, I'm using heavy air quotes, he didn't want to be like a Black writer, right? He wanted to show that he can like do other stuff. The thing I like about Baldwin is he's always self-aware about where he is as an artist, like how people are seeing him and like the weight he holds. And he wanted to just like flex a bit, which I think is so funny and so, I don't want to say like brave because that seems like a bit pat, but
yeah, mission accomplished. Though.
It was a
fun.
Yeah. All right, we're just going to take a quick break right here and then come back to discuss some of the literary themes in the book. We'll be right back.
This message comes from the Council for Interior Design Qualification. Interior designer and CIDQ president Siavash Madani describes the rigor of NCIDQ certification.
An NCIDQ certified interior designer must complete a minimum of 6 years of specialized education and work experience. Being NCIDQ certified means that you've proven your knowledge and skills and are recognized as a qualified interior design professional.
Learn more at cidq.org/NPR.
And now we're back. I want to talk about sex.
Let's do it.
Is there enough gay sex in this book? And I ask that not because I find that the memorable sex scenes, thinking back on it, there's some stuff with like Hella, and then there's the one night stand he has with Sue, I believe, which is like some
who he describes as stolid, which, ooh, man. Jesus.
Don't let that be her legacy.
Woof.
Yeah, I know. Shout out to Sue, you know, you came in. But there did seem to me an absence. And it's not like an explicit book. This isn't like we're not talking about like a romantic book, but there did seem to me like an absence of dude smooching.
I agree. Again, this is what I was looking for. When I was 25, I was like, let's get to it. And I found and I retired to the room with the sailor. It's like, well, he didn't retire. There was no retiring happening.
Yeah, I wonder, did you think of it? I know you said what you were looking for, it was more salacious, but a part of me is like, is that a bit of a cop-out? Did he
I think that's the time.
pull back?
I think that's
It's a 1956 problem. I don't know if it's like a specific to this book problem.
Yeah.
And it's also like the language he uses is the language of that time. At one point he's looking into the mirror and I contemplated my sex, he says. And it's like, okay. It's not.
We've all contemplated our sex, buddy.
That's not the language we'd use today. And of course, it was a different time. And this is the way they talked about sex. I mean, you would look at Gore Vidal, same thing. Gore Vidal writing around more or less the same time. He was using these kind of euphemisms. It's, because it was a major publisher. If it was like a cheap porn paperback you would pick up at like a greedy bookstore, they were going to town about gay stuff. I
mean, you'd hear words like member all over the place.
Members. There's so many members. Members only.
What kind of club is this?
Yeah. That would be members only would be a great name for a porn, like a real one of those cheesy porns. But, I just think, I did miss it. I wanted more of it, but I had avenues that I could explore that gave me plenty of that stuff. Didn't need to look to James Baldwin for that.
Yeah. We know what we're searching for when we're looking for a James Baldwin. And it's maybe not that.
Yep.
Glenn, I wanted to chuck to you a question that I was talking to Parker about, but when we were talking about this book, I referred to David, Giovanni, and Hella as a love triangle. And yeah, Parker made that sound.
Hey.
And then
that is not what face. That is.
And I was like, is it not? And it's like, I feel like it's like a love triangle that is impossible, that is like irreparably broken. But I still feel like it deserves discussion in the great love triangles of pop culture. I don't know. What do you think?
What do I think? Reading about this book, it's like themes of bisexuality. And I'm like, I don't want to label. I hate labels. But there's a moment towards the end of this book where he feels revulsion when her breasts rubs against his arm. And
exactly,
I'm like,
Glenn.
Is this bisexual? Like, I don't know about feeling revulsion. That does not a happy marriage make. To be fair, though, he does feel revulsion towards Giovanni when Giovanni is needy. Like when Giovanni is in that room and he's needy, and the sweet smell of his breath made me feel like blah, 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 blah. Like, yeah, I kind of got that.
I just don't think Hella literally disappears from the narrative multiple times in the book. Like,
She's busy.
I don't think
Hella's got hella business to attend to.
I don't think Hella is a priority.
I did like that one.
No, don't encourage Andrew. Don't encourage him.
Very, very Orange County. Yeah, very, very Orange County, California.
Yeah, so I don't know. I don't think of it as the love triangle. I think it is like David knows who he is, but doesn't want to press the button and go forth.
Yeah.
Is what I think.
This is a very transactional book. These people are all in transactions. They're all like trying to get something out of each other. And she is trying to get a stable life out of David, and he is trying to get respectability out of Hella, and Giovanni's just out here living his own truth.
Speaking of the stable life thing, I keep thinking, Glenn, you'd mentioned when we were talking about Hella before about like how she just wants like, the kids, the picket fence, There's that scene where David is playing housewife, right? Where he like does the dishes and cleans. What is it, like a studio apartment? Like, congrats, good job, buddy.
Yep.
But he feels like so accomplished, which I was thinking a lot about what he wants, and what he wants is to be a wife, right? Like he's a wife guy, but not in the way that we use it, the term today, right? And I don't want to call it like a gender flip because everybody should be cleaning their apartment.
He wants to be kept.
Yeah. Is that what it is?
Yeah, because at the time, right, to your point, Andrew, like there's a scene where David has abandoned Giovanni. He's with his fiancée, Hella. They're on the streets of Paris. They see Giovanni and this guy, Jacques, out and about. And Giovanni is drunk, and he's queening it up in public. And you get this, from David, you get this revulsion, right? This kind of, what a horrible person. And I read that back then because I was a pick-me gay, and I was like, well, I'm not like the other gay guys. And I was like, yeah, I get it. I totally get what David's going through here. And now today, of course, I just read that same scene, and I'm like, man, Giovanni is out here. He's standing in his truth, and David is this sad ball of rage and shame, and I would so much want to be Giovanni and not David. I'm glad I'm not David anymore.
That's so interesting because I think while reading the book, David, our protagonist, is treating Giovanni's room, like the actual Giovanni's room, as this kind of purgatory that he can't get out of.
This trap, yeah.
This trap, but somehow like the concept of Giovanni's room has been reinterpreted as this kind of safe haven, the bookstore. There's like this place to like find solace. And I find that like a really interesting juxtaposition.
Yep.
We're going to take another break. And when we're back, we'll give you some book recommendations and we'll call up another fan of Giovanni's room. Stay with us.
This message comes from KeyBank. Growing a successful business has never been easy. That's why KeyBank offers curated strategies to help your business grow today and into the future. Reimagine business as usual. KeyBank opens doors. More at key.com/B2B.
This message comes from Mint Mobile. Starting at $15 a month, make the switch at mintmobile.com/switch. $45 upfront payment for 3 months. 5 gigabyte plan equivalent to $15 a month. Taxes and fees extra. First 3 months only. See terms.
So the question, I guess, now would be, why should we read this book now?
Again, it has a power of truth that is an ugly truth, and ugly truths are the ones that matter. Ugly truths are the ones that carry, that convey, that have real power. Tidy truths, like flattering truths, frictionless truths, aren't true. And so the grittiness of this thing, the difficulty of it, the substantiveness of it is what matters. And if you read it as author insert, really self-aware and self-lacerating in a really smart way.
Yeah, this idea of like frictionless truth is uninteresting is really compelling to me right now. And the way that Baldwin is able to confront his truths, you don't see that a lot nowadays. This is like full self-confrontation in writing is just really compelling to me. And now I want to read it again.
I mean, it's so clear and so honest and so truthful that 25-year-old Glen could read it and be like, yeah, David's in the right. Giovanni is what a queen, what a femme, what a like uncomfortable gay guy, and 50 whatever. Glen can read it and go, the Davids of the world. Down with the Davids of the world. More Giovannis, less Davids. That's what the queer culture needs. A hell of a lot more Giovannis.
We'll put that on a bumper sticker.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's give some recommendations for Giovanni's Room. If you like this, then that. If you don't like this, then that.
All right. I would recommend, this is going to be a very Andrew Core recommendation, Ernest Hemingway's The Sun Also Rises.
Sure.
Ooh.
If we're talking about young and horny depressed people bumming around France, smoking cigs, if we're talking about self-loathing dudes looking at themselves in front of a mirror, like naked and not liking what they see, if we're talking about dialogue as action in a very clean and fast way, I think there's a lot of parallels here.
Cool. My pick is a new novel, Florenzer, by Phil Melanson, which is a historical fiction look at the life of Leonardo da Vinci as a young artist. The main thing that I love about it, I mean, there's lots of spice. The kids today would call it spicy. It really captures this time and place of Florence at that time, and being a young artist and the furtive kind of queer scene. And it just, as you walk through the streets, he's really great at capturing the sights, the sounds, the smells. It really places you there in a way that I haven't been placed in a historical novel in a long time. So that's what I should recommend.
Like the inner high school English teacher in me is going to pick The Stranger by Albert Camus, which is like peak existentialism, where this young man, Merceau, is kind of this disaffected man who is very apathetic towards the things around him. This is also in regards to the David not being aware of his behaviors having consequences and the impact around them. And it's a short book. It's fun. I reread it last year because I interviewed my high school English teacher.
There you go.
Oh, wow.
So I think it pairs. I was thinking about it a lot while reading Giovanni's Room. I think it pairs nicely. That is my recommendation.
Excellent.
Well, thanks a lot, Glenn. This is a lot of fun. Really
Thank you so much. This was great. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And now for this week's Phone-A-Fan, I sat with author Garth Greenwell. Hi, Garth.
Hello.
How's it going?
Great. Very happy to be here.
Happy to have you. So, in 2016, you described finding the book Giovanni's Room at a local bookstore in the queer section in the early 90s. But being in the American South, you felt the need to grab whatever book you could find, you could off of the shelves, and take it to the other side of the store to read.
That is true.
Yeah, and even as a young reader, how did reading Giovanni's Room shape that moment in time?
Oh, it really feels kind of miraculous to me. I mean, okay, so growing up in Kentucky in the pre-internet American South, I mean, basically, there were two stories about gay men that I had access to, that we could molest children and we could die of AIDS.
Golly.
And so to open up Giovanni's Room and read a story in which gay lives are treated as deserving of the kind of beauty that art can bestow on its subject, it just radically reoriented my relationship to dignity. And growing up in Kentucky as a queer person, I just felt that nothing about me fit in the world. And reading Baldwin's prose, which is so gorgeous, so expressive, so fruity in the best sense of the term. You know, what it did, it suggested to me I could fit.
That's so interesting and so lovely, because when you wrote What Belongs to You and Cleanness, were there moments when Baldwin felt like a companion or even a challenge in your creative process?
You know, I feel like there was this shadowy corner, and now, rest in peace, Holly Cook Booksellers in Louisville, Kentucky. There was this shadowy little corner in the back that somebody loved of gay and lesbian literature, which was full of incredible stuff. And I discovered Baldwin, I discovered Mishima, I discovered Woolf and Jeanette Winterson, you know, just amazing writers. I think the reason I became a writer was because I wanted to talk to them. I wanted to be part of this amazing conversation happening between queer writers, among queer writers across time.
I'm thinking about, while reading the book, for me as a reader, is that it seemed like it took so long, even at all, for David to view Giovanni as a person. In a way, comparably, I think about your book, Mitko,
Yeah.
where he's treated like a person and given like agency and like a backstory in a way that I think in 1956 would not have existed. And I was so struck by that, like, oh, this is the turn. This is the thing that I think I was craving that wasn't allowed in that time period that you were able to dig deeper into.
I'm so glad you feel that, because one of the things I felt so strongly writing What Belongs to You was that Mitko, even though the book is told from the perspective of the narrator, who's an American high school teacher, and I knew from the first moment I started writing it that we could not get Mitko's POV. We couldn't enter Mitko's brain, that this was like a sealed off space. But I knew that the reader had to know that Mitko was a full human being with a consciousness, even if we don't have access to it, having his own experience.
Gosh, this is our last question. When you teach or talk about Giovanni's Room, what's the question you most want readers to wrestle with after closing the book?
Oh, that's a very brilliant question. And I wonder if I have a real answer for it. You know, I have lived with this book so much, and it's such a personal obsession. But obviously, I want my students to encounter this book on their own. I mean, in some ways, it depends on who the students are. Like if I'm talking to my MFA students, I want them to be thinking about craft. I want them to be thinking about the brilliant way that Baldwin manipulates time in the novel. If I was teaching it to high school students, I think that I would want them to come away with questions about love and about what it means to love someone and therefore to be in some way responsible to them. And what David, I think, does learn in the book, because I don't think David learns a lot in the book, but one thing that I think he does learn in the book, and Baldwin would say this again and again across his career, is that to love someone is to make a commitment to be their witness. And at the end of the book, David knows that for the rest of his life, he is going to be haunted by Giovanni's face. And David failed to be a witness to Giovanni in their life together. But in telling Giovanni's story, and the whole book is a monologue from David, the whole book is David speaking to us, and in realizing that he has, in some radically flawed way, loved this man, and that he is bound to him for life, and that he will be his witness to life. He has learned something about love.
On that note, Garth, thank you so much for talking with me.
Oh, it has been a joy. Thank you so much for having me.
All right, thank you to Garth. And be sure to pick up Garth's latest book, Small Rain, out now.
This episode was produced by Cher Vincent and edited by Megan Sullivan.
And our executive producer is Yolanda Sansguini.
Thank you for listening to Books We've Loved from NPR. See you next time.
Bye.
This message comes from Vital Farms, who works with small American farms to bring you pasture-raised eggs. Farmer Tanner Pace shares a moment that brings him a sense of purpose.
I think that when the barn doors open and the hens run to the paddocks, you can truly see what a happy hen really is. I love pasture-raised eggs because you can see the work and the pride that the farmers have and have put into these eggs.
To learn more about how Vital Farms farmers care for their hens, visit vitalfarms.com.
This message comes from Solidigm. Yesterday's approach to storage can't meet the demands of today's AI ambitions. Bigger, faster, and more energy efficient, Solidigm solid-state storage solutions are optimized for AI. Learn more at storageforai.com. This message comes from REI Co-op. Don't be surprised when you're this season's best gift giver. REI's curated outdoor gear takes the guesswork out of gifting, so you won't be surprised, but they will. Give without guessing. Shop in-store or at rei.com.